Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. More and more that I see the Triple A game studios crumbling, movies crumbling, beer brands like Budweiser crumbling, Disney crumbling. Many of these companies are absolutely falling apart. And then you look at the governments and they're kind of falling apart. And you start looking around and you say, why is everything falling apart? Well, it's because of leftism, but it's because the feminism and the loud people with the loud voices that are the ones that don't have jobs and can stand around screaming all day, they're the loudest voices, and so everybody's listening to them, including companies that are run by weak and or foolish men. So when I say until men run things again, obviously I mean strong men, capable men, men that are not bowing down to the whims of women. I got a new article to read tonight, and it's specifically about the video game industry. And now you may yourself say, dude, I don't care about video games. They're not for me, or only losers. If you're Matt Walsh, only losers and incels play them. Whatever, that's fine. But it still also has a lot to do with the movie industry, the music industry. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I saw someone actually playing an instrument and creating music. You know, it's all techno bobble and electronic and voice. What do they call it? Whatever you call it when the software fixes your voice. I know you'll all scream it down in the comments below. But the vocal tuning, and now it's AI. Well, all these industries are falling apart. That's why you can't really go out and buy music anymore. It's all on Spotify or you rent it in some ways, on a listening service. Anyway, let me not get off on a rant. My whole point is the movie industry and all these industries just have basically bowed down to everything women want. And because of that, they're failing, and they're going to fail, and there's not going to be any correction to it. Hollywood's not going to all of a sudden be great again until they start ignoring these things that the left and the feminists and everybody's screaming about, and the DEI and the inclusivity and all the things. It's never going to get corrected. I'll run you down a few things just from the last week or two. So I did a video on this just where I mentioned it, but The Acolyte, Disney's newest flop du jour, where I think right now it's got 24% on Rotten Tomatoes by the fans, and of course it's got 95% by movie reviewer hacks that are all in the pocket of big business. Anyway, The Acolyte showrunner concurs. Now it's the gayest Star Wars. R2-D2 is a lesbian, and all these crazy, insane things that guys do not care about whatsoever. That they've come in and they've taken over the industry. I mentioned this in the video. I said, this is why we need to gatekeep things. But now they're here. And there's nothing they can do to fix this. Because they can't write a good Star Wars movie anymore, because they have to run it through the DEI filters and make sure every 500 hands touch it, so there's nothing that's insulting or could be misconstrued or take any risks, and so it's going to be all watered down, milky, boring crap. And Disney here in and of itself, this is from Forbes, the real reason for Disney's $11 billion streaming losses, and this is from April 7th, so just a short time ago. I'm not going to read down through it, but, read through the whole entire thing. But they say, let me see if I can find the part that I wanted to talk about. For numbers of months in 2020, Disney was almost entirely reliant on Disney Plus, and it came into its own. People were stuck indoors during the lockdowns, and popularity surged on it. As subscriber numbers soared far beyond Disney's forecasts, the mouse got drunk on its own success and plowed billions of dollars into exclusive content. By the time it was released, the jabs were out and the bug had receded. Consumers were left picking up the tab for blockbusters, furloughed payments, creating a global cost of living crisis that endures to this day. It led to people cutting their streaming subscriptions and left Disney with loss-making platforms. But there's something else that they don't really touch on very much in here, which is it takes you a couple years, 2-3 years to put out a movie. And when the tides of culture are changing so swiftly, you're behind the curve. And when you sink in $200-300 million into a movie that's supposed to be certain inclusive and it has certain messages in it, and politically it's one way, and then you release it and the tides have turned, all of a sudden you realize you're in a lot of trouble. If Falcon, I think it was Falcon and the Winter Soldier was one of the Disney MCU things, and now they've changed Falcon. I forget the actor's name in the MCU. Falcon is now going to be the new Captain America, and he's black, which is, it is what it is. But a lot of people wanted to see Bucky Barnes become, comic book fans wanted to see Bucky Barnes become the new Captain America, and they didn't. And then on top of that, it was preachy, and it's full of politics. And now they're on their 5th or 6th reshoot of the movie, costing gosh knows how many tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. They're on their 5th or 6th reshoot of various 30 minutes, 40 minutes of the movie to try to make it fit in with quote-unquote modern audiences. But the modern audiences are people that are tired of being preached to. And who's in charge of this stuff? The feminists, the woke, the DEI, all the things. Not the traditional men that had lived a challenging, interesting life and then decided to write movies. Now they've got, tweenies, young people right out of college that have pampered lives and believe going to protest BLM is the greatest thing you could accomplish in your life. And they're really suffering because of that. And now, this is literally from just 4 days ago, Dragon Age. So I'm a fan of the Dragon Age series. But now the new one, Dragon Age the Veilguard, game director who describes himself as a queer-osexual gendermancer, claims the game is inherently queer. Okay, so you've got a population that is mostly the people that play games. That would be men. You've got, 60 to 65, 70% here in the United States is white men. The other 30% Latino, Asian, African American, black community. But those men, what do they not care about? This, whatever this is. You're selling out to a very small segment. So out of the 100% of men in the United States, let's say 20 to 30% of them virtue signal online for this stuff. Does that mean they want to play a game with it? Does that mean they want to experience it when they're playing a game? Probably not, because they can't virtue signal. They can't get brownie points with the feminist ladies, and maybe because they behave really good, she'll give them a quick rub and tug under the sheets at night before she goes to bed. And so it's not going to get him anywhere. So they probably don't care. And then the other, 70 to 90% of men that do care, that they don't want this in their content, are saying, I'm out. And this is the direction the Triple A games have gone. And you might say, but Joker, Triple A games and these game studios are run by men. Well, they're men, technically, but they're not men. They're not business-minded, number one. Number two, they're not guys that love games, that want to put out a great product and be proud of it because they love video games. It's become a money machine. And they're selling out thinking that their virtue signaling is going to make them money. Look what happened with the Suicide Squad and going after versus the Justice League, and they end up wiping out the Justice League. No one really cared. It didn't do well. They lost a ton of money on that. So I don't even know if let me just read down through this a second. But this is kind of the state of businesses right now and how men feel about it. That this is why AAA games will fail and why they've shut down so many studios recently. And the industry is hemorrhaging money. Same thing with Hollywood. because they gave up on the people that really liked them the most, which is dudes, real dudes, not pillow biter dudes, if you know what I'm saying. They say BioWare announced it's renaming its upcoming Dragon Age game from Dragon Age Dreadwolf to Dragon Age Vileguard. At the same time, it's been brought to public attention that the game's director is a man pretending to be a woman who supports Bravo Lima Mike, BLM. He also believes the game is inherently queer. Now, see, we're not talking about the game. We're not talking what the game's about. Look, when I was younger and there was going to be a new Metroid game or a new Zelda game or a new Mario game or a new, Capcom game like Street Fighter 3, I remember talking with my friends like, oh man, this new Street Fighter, you've got 4 or 6 extra characters. There's extra outfits. I used to play in arcades, and I used to play with my friends after school. And we had hella good times with it. We're not talking about the games anymore. There's nothing to be excited about. And so to stir up controversy or to make it to where people will talk about the game, instead of talking about the game, they talk about the people involved in the game. We don't care. I don't care if you have 2 moms. I don't care if you're a pillow biter and you like to be a power bottom on the weekends. I don't care. That has nothing to do with the game itself. But when this is the priority that the movie theaters and Disney and these gaming companies, and when this is all the things that they talk about before you even have hands-on with the game, when this is all they talk about, the Acolyte, when it's a gay Star Wars, when this is what they talk about instead of the movie, normal, straight, regular people, and mostly men that are into this, are say, I'm done, I'm out. I don't care how good a game is, I'm out. Because obviously, you telling us how you spend your weekends or who you date is more important than the game itself, so the game must not be very good. They say the blog post detailed, naturally, the Dreadwolf still has an important part in this tale, but you and your companions, not your enemies, are the heart of this new experience. So to capture what this game is all about, we changed the name as the original title didn't just show how strongly we feel about our new heroes, their stories, and how you need to bring them all together to save all of Thedas. We proudly introduce to you Dragon Age, the Veilguard. BioWare previously recorded that Dreadwolf was Solus, one of the companions introduced in Dragon Age Inquisition. A cinematic from the game shared back in 2022 detailed I knew him as Solus and blah, 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 blah. Following this announcement, former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kern, a.k.a. Grums, wrote on X, BioWare Dragon's Age has been renamed to Dragon Age the Vileguard. New game trailer to debut June 11th. I'm hoping for a great game free of modern politics. Uh-oh. He then included a screenshot of the game director Bush's locked X account, which shows he claimed to be a woman, queerosexual gendermancer, and a supporter of Bravo Lima Mike. So now we're back into the politics. While this information is being brought to light to the wider public by Grums, a developer story focused on Bush, reveals his identity as okay, we get it. And so now we get into the politics of it. And he says, the LGHD TV, it's so deeply meaningful for so many. I often get emotional when I think about what it would have meant for a younger version of myself to see someone like me in a game, and as a hero no less. I hope we can be a safe place for our queer players to know they're not alone, and they are brilliant and worthy, and they're not only welcome, but celebrated. So that's what the game's about now. It's not about you being a dwarf or an elf. It's not about you being a mage. It's making sure that you have the representation. And Phil Spencer, and I'll just wrap it up with this. I have a lot more I could rant about, but I just want to give you guys the kind of the gist of what's going on. Look, I'm a 50-year-old dude. I'm incredibly open-minded. If somebody says games are for losers, I'm like, okay, I like them. That's fine. If I happen to think new music sucks, and you're like, dude, new rap is awesome. I love it. Okay, like I'm pretty much a whatever guy. But when you start getting into these things where the game is not about the game, it's self-inserts. It's about getting your message and your story and your inclusivity and expanding your brand to bludgeon us repeatedly with the message. And again, I mentioned this in a couple other videos that I've done, but it's drowning us at this point. It's drowning us. It's in the movies and the games, and you can't get away from it. And right now, it's what it's like with politics. Everything is politics. I try to look through and try to find interesting stories to do to you guys, because doing videos is very cathartic to me. Like, I enjoy this. I enjoy doing videos for you guys. I like reading the comments and having a little bit of a back and forth and getting your feedback. That kind of fills my social interaction meter, because otherwise I'm pretty much a hermit. And day after day, I'm looking through this stuff and I'm like, it's all the same crap. It's just politics and everybody fighting over stupid stuff. And this is more of it. Phil Spencer, this is from Polygon, from last year, but it's still quite relevant. Phil Spencer is right. AAA games are in big trouble. The Xbox leaks have provided a rare look into the fears and ambition of those at the highest level in the game industry. They say all is not well in AAA games. In the past, those outside of the industry assumed this to be true based on dipping sales, poor working conditions, and cratering of creativity, as publishers like EA, Activision, and Ubisoft have stopped taking risks and have spent more time and money on their diminishing pools of hit franchises. Now, you might ask yourself, what is similar between EA, Activision, and Ubisoft? They've all bowed to the culture of woke. Most of their employees hit some metric of diversity. You're not hiring the good programmers anymore. You're not hiring the good creative people anymore. You're hiring people that are getting hired for their secondary characteristics, the ones that we don't care about, and they're hobbling together boring, lazy games that have too much message in them. And people are not spending the money anymore. In an industry known for its secrecy, Spencer has been comparably open about how the sausage is made by C-suite standards, of course. But even still, this note is refreshingly clear, vulnerable, and insightful. As other game journalists have noted, it's rare to get such a helpful look behind the curtain. Here's an excerpt of the email in question from within Xbox leaks. We should start with a question of why game publishers exist in the first place. And like many other forms of media, the idea of game publisher was created from an access moat, like movie studios locking up their theater distribution, album companies locking up radio play. Game publishers' scale and physical retail game sales allowed them to secure retail shelf space, in-store promotion, and margin structure beyond what any individual studio could dictate when games were primarily sold in stores. If you were a studio, you needed AAA publisher to reach a customer at an egghead software. Now let me stop there. So what he's basically saying is, hey, when it was records and CDs and DVDs for the publishing, like record industry, you had to be able to reach the big dogs to make it to customers. You had to make it to the Motown Records or whatever other record companies were out there, or musical distribution centers. When you were a video game, you had to be a Triple A. You had to be a Nintendo or a Sony or Activision or one of the big ones to be able to make the game, to afford to make the game, and to put it on physical media and to get shelf space in a store. When you had the movies and you needed to, there were only so many movies you could put into a movie theater at a time. Back in the day, that was like, 4 or 6 movie screens. And then during the boom of the late 80s and 90s movies, all of a sudden you had these cineplexes that had 12, 16 movie theaters or movie rooms where you could watch the movies, 16 different movies, and a popular one came in and they would put it on 2 or 4 of the screens. But now, because of the way the internet is structured, you can go on YouTube and watch me. You can stream from Amazon. You can stream from Netflix. You can stream from Tubi. You can stream from Hulu. You can rent movies from anywhere. And now you can listen to podcasts on Apple. You can listen to buy almost any album that people want to put up on the Apple Play Store or someplace similar for as low as 99 cents for a full album, because it's, a lesser known individual. And all those little tiny bites are like piranha going at a big cow. And before you know it, that big cow is no longer. It's been gobbled up by all the little content creators. And this really is not only a good thing, not necessarily a great thing, but a necessary thing. Because these people at Disney and at Budweiser and at whether Netflix or these Triple A game studios, all of these woke lefties assumed we have taken over the businesses. We run everything. Now we can put in our DEI messaging and our feminist messaging. We can put in all the things that we want to, and you have no choice. That if you want to play these new AAA games, well, now you're going to have to drink at the moat that is DEI. You have no other choices, you see, because we've put it in everything. And as I've said many times, when men are faced with a challenge, men must adapt or they are ended. A man that doesn't adapt is left, he's worthless to society, he's left behind. So men are adapting. Eric July, another YouTuber here on YouTube, he came out, the Rippaverse, he started making his own comic books. He's selling millions of dollars worth of comic books. I have one of the first ones that he printed. I bought one to support him because I'm all for independent content creators. So I wanted to support him. I don't read comic books. As a matter of fact, it's literally still in the cardboard box that he shipped it out in. I haven't even opened it yet. So it hasn't even seen the light of day. It wasn't about me getting the comic book. It was about me donating to his cause because he's fighting back against the machine. And then, so you've got these double A, single A, indie developers that are coming out with quality content, and instead of costing $150 million for a video game where 300 or 500 people are involved and all the DEI people that are safety checking everything, you've got other studios that are just cranking out good games that are not boiled down to the lowest common denominator, and they're quality products. That's where the Helldivers came from. That wasn't a huge project. It was just kind of a little quiet thing that took off with people. So when you've got these companies that are these big companies, whether it's, the Budweisers of the world, and I use Budweiser because that's one everybody knows with Dylan Mulvaney and the CEO wouldn't apologize and they lost stock money. Whether it's that, whether it's the Dragon's Age and Activisions, whether it's the Targets and the Walmarts, people have so many other choices now that if they don't like your message, they'll leave. And that's what they're doing. And until these companies get solid leadership, strong-minded men that are not part of the politics, that are not bowing down to the feminists and the activists, that are saying, hey, we're a business. We're not doing any of that stuff. We're putting out I don't care what you say. Go ahead, boycott. I don't care. This is what we're doing, because that instantly takes away power from all of these causes. And as soon as they lose power, they move on to somebody else. They go pester other people that are bothered by them. They're like your bratty kid sister or kid brother that's always messing with you just to annoy you and get under your skin. And the minute you ignore them and you're bored by them and you don't pay them any mind anymore, they get bored of you and they go on to somebody else or go on to cause other trouble. That's why some comedians, like Bill Burr, you can't cancel because he doesn't care what you say. Neither did Norm Macdonald. Neither does, Adam Carolla. Neither Joe Rogan. None of them care. They're untouchables because they don't bow to the craziness. So when I say until men run these corporations, until men run, and I mean men run things again, they're going to suffer. They're going to suffer. They're going to go on this activist stuff. And men are just going to continue to walk away. And you can't shame men into coming back. That's the best part. You know, this Acolyte is failing. And I don't remember if it was the producer or somebody came out. And I know a journalist wrote about it. And they're like, it's not Acolyte that has the problem. It's the fans. You can't shame us into liking your product. You can't shame us into watching it. You can't shame us into saying nice things about it. You have no power here. And that's the problem. They don't have any power anymore because while they may own the quote-unquote industry, there are so many other ways to reach people that will support you or give to you or purchase your product that the big businesses, they don't have the power anymore. And until the smart guys come back in and start running it the right way, it's just going to continue to fail. And I'm here for it. And I like it very much. Speaking of reaching out to independent content creators, guys, if you haven't joined me, jump over to betterbachelor.locals.com. Great community of guys over there. I do, 4 or 5 live streams, about 10 hours a month. I'm going to be doing a little bit more content over there. But we got a great community. We share all kinds of stories. It's a great group of guys. So come on over today. I'd appreciate if you became a supporter. $5 a month, not too much. And help me stay independent of Big Mama YouTube and our demonetization. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next one.